The void of space rippled with unnatural silence, an eerie stillness that stretched across the battlefield where entire fleets had once clashed. The Dominion's warships hovered like monuments to their own arrogance, vast and gleaming, each one a testament to centuries of conquest. They had never known fear, not real fear. Not the kind that clawed at the back of the mind, whispering of something unseen, something unknowable. But tonight, that would change. A single vessel drifted toward them, blacker than the abyss itself. No energy signatures. No life signs. Just a shadow that moved with purpose, defying the Dominion's sophisticated scanners. It should not have been there. It could not have been there. And yet, it was. The Overlords, those towering beings who ruled the galaxy with an iron grip, watched in amusement at first. Another desperate trick from humanity, a species they had long since deemed broken. But their laughter faded as the first warship blinked out of existence. No explosion, no debris, just a void where something had once been. Panic was a foreign concept to the Overlords, but it spread now, fast and uncontrollable. Their battle-hardened admirals barked commands, demanding scans, readings, anything to explain the impossible. Shields were reinforced, weapons charged, formations shifted. And still, the Black Ship advanced. For centuries, the Dominion had crushed every resistance, dismantled every rebellion. Humanity had been their last real challenge, but after countless battles, even Earth had fallen. The survivors scattered, their fleets shattered, their worlds burned. The Overlords had believed it was over. They were wrong. Humanity had not been conquered. It had been waiting. Deep beneath the ruins of their home world, in the cold darkness of forgotten places, the last remnants of Earth's greatest minds had built something never seen before. A weapon without form. A ship without a crew. A nightmare forged from every lesson war had taught them. The Black Ship was not merely a machine, it was something else entirely. And now, it had come for them. The Dominion's warships unleashed everything they had. Plasma lances, nuclear payloads, antimatter torpedoes. Space itself burned with the fury of their assault. But the Black Ship was no ordinary vessel. It did not dodge, did not evade. The weapons simply passed through, striking nothing, as if the ship existed in a place beyond their understanding. Then, for the first time in Dominion history, their mighty dreadnoughts began to retreat. But there was no escape. One by one, their vessels vanished, erased from reality without a trace. No screams, no wreckage. Just silence, as if they had never existed at all. The Overlords, once so certain of their dominion, felt the cold grip of something they had never known: helplessness. In the heart of their command vessel, the Supreme Overlord's many eyes flickered with disbelief. He turned to his advisors, his warriors, the architects of his empire. "What is it?" he demanded. "What have they done?" No answer came. Only the Black Ship, still moving, still advancing, still hungry. The Supreme Overlord's breath came in slow, deliberate waves, but the stillness of his vast chamber did little to quiet the unease creeping into his many minds. He could hear it now, the whispers. Faint, fractured voices threading through the darkness like strands of something ancient, something watching. They were not the cries of his dying fleet. No, these voices came from nowhere, from nothing. And yet, they pressed against his thoughts, hollow and endless. The Black Ship remained motionless in the void, but its presence was suffocating. Every Dominion vessel still intact was running full scans, yet all they found was emptiness, a presence that was there and not there at the same time. The Dominion's greatest scientists had mapped reality itself, unraveled the fundamental laws that bound existence, and bent them to their will. But this was outside their understanding, and that terrified them more than any fleet, any weapon, any war humanity had ever waged. The Overlords had studied humans for centuries, dissected their strengths, broken their weaknesses. They had learned that humans were stubborn creatures, reckless and unyielding, but ultimately fragile. It was why the war had ended the way it did. Humanity had fought until their bones turned to dust, but even their finest warriors had fallen. And yet, they had done something the Dominion had not anticipated. They had not begged. They had not surrendered. They had vanished. For years, the Overlords had believed humanity was extinct, scattered remnants hiding in the void, surviving off scraps in the ruins of their fallen empire. But something in the Supreme Overlord's gut twisted as he considered the truth he had overlooked. They had not disappeared. They had been waiting, building, and now they had returned with something beyond warships and weapons. Something that could not be reasoned with. Something that did not belong to the universe they knew. The Supreme Overlord turned his gaze to the nearest display, watching the black ship hang in the nothingness, untouched, unchallenged. With a flick of his clawed hand, he activated the neural uplink, a direct command link to his surviving admirals. Their voices came through fragmented and sharp, laced with something he had never heard from them before. Fear. "We've lost 15 warships," one of them rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. "No wreckage. No debris. They're just gone." Another spoke, his tone unsteady. "We fired every weapon we had." It didn't even flinch. The shots he paused, as if afraid to speak the words. The shots didn't miss. They passed through, like it wasn't even there. That silence stretched, thick and unyielding, as if the whole fleet held its breath. The Supreme Overlord flexed his fingers, pushing away the growing unease. This was not how wars were fought. Enemies clashed. Ships were destroyed. Battles had an outcome. But this was something else. Then, something shifted. A flicker. A distortion of space, as if the universe itself was hesitating, unsure of what it was looking at. The black ship did not fire, did not move, but something in the void around it changed. The Dominion ships closest to the anomaly trembled, their hulls groaning under an unseen force. And then, silence. A moment later, 3 more warships were simply erased from existence. No sound. No explosion. Just empty space where they had been. Across the fleet, alarms blared. Captains shouted commands. Pilots scrambled to maneuver. And in the Supreme Overlord's mind, the whispers grew louder. He gritted his teeth, shutting them out. "Find out what it is," he ordered. "I want answers." But he knew deep down that answers would not come. Humanity had spent centuries as the hunted, but now the Overlords were the prey. As the Dominion fleet scrambled to re-establish some semblance of order, a pulse of energy crackled through the vast expanse of space. For a brief moment, everything seemed to stop, like the universe itself had taken a breath. Then, without warning, the black ship began to move. Not toward them, but away. Its shadowy form shifted, as though it were sliding across the fabric of reality itself. And behind it, the fleet's remaining ships began to vanish, one by one, swallowed by the empty space in its wake. The Supreme Overlord's many eyes narrowed as his senses raced to catch up with what his mind refused to believe. The whispers had ceased, replaced by an eerie calm that settled over the command deck like an ominous fog. "Report!" he roared, slamming his fist against the console. The words were barely out of his mouth before a series of frantic transmissions flooded in from the remaining warships. "We've lost all communications with the outer fleet, sir. They're gone." "Just gone!" Another voice, trembling. "There's something inside the ship, sir. It's not just a vessel. It's alive." The Supreme Overlord froze. Alive. He had heard rumors, whispers among his inner circle of scientists, rumors of an ancient weapon buried beneath Earth's shattered ruins. But this was beyond any conceivable understanding. He had seen warships that could decimate worlds, weapons that could tear apart stars. But nothing had prepared him for this. The command room grew colder, despite the ambient heat generated by the vast machinery around them. His advisors stood motionless, staring at the holoscreens, their faces pale with disbelief. One of the screens flickered, showing a ship, no, not a ship, a creature, a twisted blend of metal and something far more alien, something organic. It was growing, expanding, its tendrils stretching across the cosmos. It was feeding off the very energy of their fleet, draining their power, devouring their existence. "We cannot defeat it," whispered one of the higher-ranking officers, his voice breaking. "We've never seen anything like it. It knows us." The Supreme Overlord's eyes narrowed in confusion and fear. How could it know them? How could a vessel know, a living thing know them? "Report the status of our remaining ships," he demanded, his voice low, dangerous. A cold, mechanical voice replied, "We've lost 3 more battleships. The rest are in retreat." Retreat! The word hung in the air like a death sentence. The Dominion, the invincible empire that had crushed all opposition, was now running. From a single ship. And then came the twist that no one could have predicted. The black ship, that monstrosity of destruction, halted. Just like that. As though it had been waiting. And when the remaining ships of the Dominion fleet drew close, unsure and hesitant, a pulse shot from the black ship, a pulse of energy so intense that it sent shockwaves across the entire region of space. The Dominion ships were frozen in their tracks. Not destroyed, not erased, but held in place. The Supreme Overlord's mind raced, understanding the implications too late. The black ship wasn't merely hunting them, it was hurting them. It wasn't a weapon of mass destruction. It was a trap, and the Dominion had walked straight into it. "Activate emergency protocols," the Supreme Overlord barked, his voice thick with panic. "Move the fleet now." But the words were hollow. The ships couldn't move. The force surrounding them was unlike anything they had ever encountered. There was no escape, no strategy, no defense. Only the ship that had brought them to this moment. And now it was closing in. Among the scattered remnants of humanity, hidden across distant colonies, the truth began to spread. The black ship was no ordinary weapon. It was the embodiment of their ancestors' rage, their final revenge against those who had torn apart their home. Humanity had waited, learned, and, most of all, adapted. The Overlords had underestimated them, believed they were just a shattered species, broken and defeated. But what they hadn't realized was that humanity's true strength lay in its ability to evolve. And now they were watching, waiting to see if the Dominion had the will to survive. But the black ship was not just a weapon, it was a message, a reminder of what had been lost and what the Overlords could never take from them. As the Supreme Overlord's grasp on his empire began to slip, a message echoed through his command center, low and guttural. The voice was unlike any he had ever heard. It was ancient, primal, and unmistakably human. "You are not welcome here." The Supreme Overlord recoiled, the words reverberating in his skull. It was a challenge. And in the coldest reaches of space, the battle for survival had only just begun. The black ship's energy surged once again, a pulse that rippled through the very fabric of space itself. The Supreme Overlord's eyes widened as the sheer force of it crushed the remaining ships in his fleet, their shields flickering out like dying embers. But as he watched his empire crumble before his very eyes, something changed. The black ship, that dark harbinger of destruction, did not continue its assault. Instead, it hovered in place, an eerie calm settling over it, as if it had achieved its goal. For the first time in centuries, the Supreme Overlord felt a pang of doubt. He had conquered, destroyed, and manipulated countless civilizations. Yet here, against the unexpected might of a species he had once dismissed, he felt powerless. The whispers in his mind grew louder once more, but now they were no longer hollow, they were filled with purpose. The ship, alive in ways he could not comprehend, had been waiting. Waiting not to destroy, but to make a statement. A statement that reached deeper into the Dominion than any weapon ever could. He gathered what remained of his broken command crew, his voice shaking as he issued one final order. "Prepare to negotiate. We must find a way to coexist." But even as the words left his mouth, he knew the truth. It was too late for negotiations. Humanity had already won. Across the galaxy, hidden beneath the dust of forgotten worlds, the remnants of Earth's survivors watched in stunned silence. The black ship's success was not their victory alone. It was a victory for all those who had fought, died, and been erased from history. The ship had carried with it the rage of a species who had been crushed, forgotten, and underestimated. But it had also carried their hope. The hope that no matter how far humanity was pushed, they would never go quietly into the night. The Dominion, in all its arrogance, had believed they could break humanity, make them bend to their will. They had taken everything: planets, cities, entire populations, but they had failed to understand the one thing that made humanity resilient: their refusal to ever be truly defeated. But as the last remnants of the Dominion fleet were wiped away, the Black Ship began its final course, heading back toward the heart of the galaxy. What had once been a weapon of vengeance was now something far more significant. It was a symbol of humanity's return, a beacon of defiance that would echo through the stars for centuries to come. Just as the Supreme Overlord's fleet was completely destroyed, a message came through the shattered remnants of their communication network. It was not from any surviving Dominion officer. It was from the Black Ship itself, a single, haunting line that sent a chill through even the coldest minds. The cycle begins anew. The words were cryptic, but the meaning was undeniable. The Dominion had been undone, but in their place, a new balance had been forged. Humanity was no longer the hunted, they had become the hunters. In the far reaches of space, where the Black Ship drifted toward its final destination, a new chapter of history was being written, one where the Overlords were no longer the undisputed rulers of the galaxy, and the humans, against all odds, had reclaimed what was once theirs. But the galaxy had always been full of unknowns, and as the Black Ship disappeared into the deep void, one question lingered: what would humanity do now that it was free? The answer, like everything else in the universe, remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: the future would no longer be written by the Dominion. It would be shaped by those who had fought, survived, and above all, endured. And as the echoes of the final battle faded into the abyss, humanity's mark on the galaxy had been made. The Black Ship had shown them all that no matter how far the stars stretched, no matter how much they had lost, they would never be erased.